everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather Stamper, and I am here with all the writing goodies. Now, if you like to write, which is one of the reasons why I hope you're here, then you probably have books that helped inspired you to that. So I'm going to share with you 3 books that inspired my writing. The first one is The Fairy Rebel by Lynn Reid Banks. It's a story that takes place in England. It is a modern-ish fairy tale. Came out in 1985. I read it when I was about 9 or 10 years old, which tells you how much of an influence it's had on me because I can remember it from way back when I was 9 or 10 years old. The story is about a fairy named Tiki who breaks the fairy law by performing magic for a woman who desperately wants a baby. The woman's name is Jan. And then the shenanigans of the consequences of those actions ensues. What I loved about it as a kid was the attention to detail. There are so many like little magical touches in this real world setting. I guess you could say it was like my first urban fantasy book. And if you're familiar with Lynn Reid Banks, she's the one that also wrote Lynn Reid Banks also wrote the Indian in the Cupboard book, which is another amazing one. The attention to detail. The little baby has like a little lock of hair that grows out from the side of her neck that is bright pink, and no matter what they do to it, dye it, cut it, whatever, it still pops back up pink, which I think is pretty cool. Another thing that really struck me as a kid was the birthday presents that the fairies would bring her. They would always leave her a special birthday present that looked ordinary enough, and then it turned out to be not so ordinary. Like, for instance, a balloon, a bright pink, beautiful balloon. That birthday balloon lasted all year long. No matter how much the toddler did to it, it never popped. It just squashed and then came right back. Things like that just wowed me as a kid. So, and what I love about it now as an adult is you have real world consequences for these magical actions, which I think is so cool. I would love to reread that one now. I would have to find a copy first and reread it and just see how it strikes me as a very grown woman rereading a childhood favorite. Another book that influenced me, and this one I read when I was a little bit older, I was about 11 or 12 years old, The Castle in the Attic by Elizabeth Winthrop, another British author. You think there was a theme or something. Castle in the Attic is a story about a boy named William who receives the gift of a beautiful model castle from Mrs. Phillips, the family housekeeper, who is going into retirement. And, you know, William was her favorite little person that she worked with in the house. And so she wanted to give this parting gift to him. And she tells him this wonderful story about how the castle is enchanted and that the one action figure that comes with the castle is this little knight made of lead, but he's called the Silver Knight. So that in itself makes me smile. Well, when William accidentally brings the knight to life, where it can like walk around on his hand and stuff, he basically finds out how he can keep his favorite housekeeper friend forever by shrinking her down to doll-like size. Then they never have to be parted, and the knight won't be lonely anymore. See, it's a win-win for everyone who was in on that plot. Consent, people. And then let the shenanigans ensue on how to get her back to normal size, because she is definitely not happy about the situation. For sure. What I loved about it is it gives a great example of a hero's journey for someone who is reading like a middle grade, early young adult book. Had all the magic, the up and down, the going into unknown lands to break the curse, going on that mission, not having your advisor with you, fighting the evil wizards, stuff like that. Oh, it was great. Again, I want to reread that one. And I was today years old and found out that there's a sequel to this book called The Battle for the Castle. I'm shook. Okay, I need to go and read that book now. So that's on my to be read list. So there. Now the third book that I'm going to talk about is actually a book series called The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Myers. And I'm focusing primarily on the book Cinder because that's the one that really impacted me the most. It's a YA series, and it basically just does this fantastic spin on the classic fairy tales. You could almost like throw darts at some of these elements that go into the story. So Cinder, obviously Cinderella. So let's see what we have here. We have dystopian society, New Beijing as part of this world reconstruct. Cinder is an android or a part cyborg and is considered a second-class citizen. Of course she would be, right? She's a biomechanic. Her coach is an ancient orange VW bug. I'm hooked, okay? And there's aliens involved or people who no longer live on Earth involved. It's not just find the lady who has the shoe. It's find the lady who's missing a leg because it's cybernetic. And let's continue that, okay? There's other books, in the series. Probably the other one that really stands out for me is Cress, which is basically the Rapunzel story. And Cress is this, not only is she the sheltered Rapunzel type that doesn't know what's going on in the world, she is a computer nerd that lives on a satellite all by herself. So, I mean, I'm just giddy just from all that. And it's just great. Take my word for it. It's awesome. So if I ever get published, you'll probably read into my stories. And if you're familiar with any of those books I just read, you're going to be like, yep, I see what she did there. She's got those elements in there. And I'm sure when they wrote their stories that they also had authors that inspired them. Maybe they, obviously they were inspired by the Grimm and Anderson tales. Also, there are other contemporaries like J.R.R. Tolkien. So as you're writing, think about what are some of your favorite books that influence you to do your best writing. You may be surprised by what comes out of it because at first glance at my writing, I wouldn't have thought of Fairy Rebel and the Castle in the Attic, but it wasn't until I was thinking about this episode that I was like, oh yeah, that book. Yeah, I guess so. It really did stick with me, so things to remember as you're writing. So I hope you enjoyed this episode and this random book nerd rant here. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and ding-a-ling the little notification bell. And I will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. The Indian in the Cupboard books that they made movies about. No, Gigi. Nice try. Sorry.